Hey everybody, and Tony here with my 200th live music review, mostly specializing on opera, concerts, and classical music in general. And what better way to kick off this milestone than with my review of Vincenzo Bellini's I Puritani live from the Teatro de Madrid, starring one of my all-time favorite vocal idols, Diana Damrau as Elvira Balton, and one of my most favorite light lyric tenors of all time, Javier Camarena singing Arturo Talbo, which I saw on YouTube via a link provided by the awesome, wonderful, and magnificent Dylan Haynes, aka Coloratura fan. So Dylan, if you are watching this video, I hope you enjoy my 200th live music review and think of this as my thank you gift from me to you. The conductor was Evelino Pido, the production was done by Emilio Sagi, the set designer was Daniel Bianco, the costume designer was Pepe Spool, the lighting was handled by Eduardo Bravo, and the chorus master was Andres Maspero. I Puritani is the last opera that Vincenzo Bellini composed before his tragic death at the age of 34 in 1835. This is yet another famous opera of his aside from Norma, Beatrice di Tenda, La Sonnambula, and I Capuletti e Montechi. My first experience with this opera was when I was about 9 or 10 years old, and I heard Luciano Pavarotti singing A Teo Cara with Joan Sutherland, Nikolai Gyaurov, and Giancarlo Lucardi on a CD, and it was really a strong first impression as I grew to love Arturo's aria A Teo Cara. And then by the time I turned 13, I then listened to, obviously on CD, Joan Sutherland singing Son Vergine Vezzosa, which I absolutely adored. And I even heard Angela Gheorghiu singing Qui la voce sua soave. And those were basically my first experiences with this opera. I basically knew this opera from Arturo's A Teo Cara, his duet with Elvira, Vieni, Vieni fra queste braccia, and even Credeasi Misera, in which he also has to sing a high F above the tenor high C, Elvira's Son Vergine Vezzosa, Qui la voce sua soave, and the cabaletta Vien diletto, and Giorgio's Cinta di Fiori, and his duet with Riccardo Suoni la Tromba. I basically knew this opera through the arias and through the ensembles, and it was a very strong first impression. I was mainly looking forward to this live stream production because of Diana Damrau as Elvira. I'll get to her later. But first, I would like to talk about the production and the costumes. Overall, the production is rather enticing and mesmerizing in its own way, though at times it has that tendency to be rather dark in a lot of areas. But it uses a lot of the scenery and a lot of the backdrops to its advantage. We start off Act 1 with an empty hall full of people trying to search for something. Then when we go to Arturo's A Teo Cara, he hands Elvira a golden rose, much like how Octavian gave the silver rose to Sophie from Richard Strauss's Der Rosenkavalier. And then when we go to Elvira's mad scene, we are then treated to a house full of chandeliers that have been put down, because in the first act, when Arturo sings his A Teo Cara, there are chandeliers descending not only on the stage, but to really show that they are in a banquet hall and they're about to celebrate Arturo's marriage to Elvira with everyone watching. And during the final act, we see Arturo in a forest, and it's quite dark, but it uses the darkness and uses that dark atmosphere to its advantage. And without mincing words, the production was quite fine and elegant in its own special way. And what I seem to notice about this production is that there is like white sand or like snow on the floor, but I think it's most likely white sand on the floor, like really, really white sand on the floor, which the characters walk on. The costumes were absolutely gorgeous. The men, for the most part, wear these fur coats, and then we get to see Elvira wearing these absolutely gorgeous costumes, even though all of them are white. And she just looks absolutely fabulous. And then we even see Queen Enriqueta dressed in gold with her fine auburn hair all styled up. And we even see the women dressed up in Puritan clothes, and a lot of the men in black, especially Arturo. And the Valtons look absolutely handsome, what with their medallions on their chest, especially with the likes of Sir Ricardo Fort with his medallions on his chest as well. So I'm not gonna mince words here. The production was really good, but the costumes were absolutely mesmerizing in their own special way. And now we get to the singers, starting off with Diana Damrau as Elvira, the main reason why I saw this live stream, and who I have to personally thank for making this 200th review very much worth looking forward to. The role of Elvira Valton really requires a dramatic coloratura soprano, though there has been no shortage of light lyric coloratura sopranos who also sing this role. She basically needs to be a very great actress aside from showing great amounts of technicality. She not only has to hit a lot of the high notes, but also has to have a very secure technique. This role is just as coveted as Amina, Norma, Beatrice di Tenda, Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda, Elisabetta from Roberto de Vereux, Lucia Ashton, Semiramide, Matilde from Guillaume Tell, Amalia from Masnadieri, Giovanna d'Arco, Lucrezia Contarini from I Due Foscari, Violetta from La Traviata, Elvira from Hernani, the Queen of the Night from Mozart's Zauberflöte, Constanze from Entführung aus dem Serail, and many other roles sung by a lot of the dramatic coloraturas or lyric coloraturas with a lot more heft in their voice. There has been no shortage of sopranos singing the role of Elvira, the likes of Maria Callas, Joan Sutherland, Mercedes Caspir, Maria Barrientos, Elvira de Hidalgo, Josefina Hugoet, Maria Galvani, Graziella Pareto, Edita Gruberova, Luciana Serra, Maria Ladevia, June Anderson, Joanna Vosch, Elena Moshuk, Mary Dunleavy, and what we have today with the likes of Jessica Pratt, Albina Shagimuratova, and Olga Peretyatko, just to name a few sopranos who have attempted this wonderful Bellini heroine. What more can I say about my absolute vocal idol Diana Damrau as Elvira Valton? She is absolutely fabulous in this role. Her stage presence is always something to behold as she manages to add in loads of charm, loads of charisma, loads of vivacity, and she was just so lively on stage. I was practically in awe of her performance. She manages to really make Elvira a very multidimensional and very strong-minded heroine, and she manages to really be a total blast with this role. She manages to really embody this character to the best of her abilities, and her singing was of the highest order. It maintains that pristine quality. Her technical work is fine all throughout, and her voice is homogeneous throughout all the registers. I've heard certain critics say that Damrau is not suitable for bel canto, or they think her technique is meh, but come on. In my opinion, Madame Damrau has some of the finest techniques she has to offer as Elvira, and I always saw her as someone who could really do a lot of wonderful things with bel canto. Here's hoping that she would do the three Donizetti queens like Anna Bolena, Maria Stuarda, and Elisabetta from Roberto de Vereux, and maybe do Beatrice di Tenda, Imogene from Il Pirata, Alaide from La Straniera, Amalia from Asnadieri, and maybe even Norma. Who knows? Maybe time will tell when these roles will be offered to her, and I'm sure she will be a knockout in those roles in the future. But as for Damrau as Elvira, I have to say, brava to you, Madame Damrau. You really were the star of the evening, which is no surprise. As soon as Diana Damrau arrived on stage for her curtain call, she received her well-deserved standing ovation, and that is just how much the audience in Madrid absolutely loved her in this role. She was an absolute gem, and she really rocked it as this iconic Bellini heroine. Singing the role of her lover, Arturo Talbo, was the fabulous light lyric tenor Javier Camarena. Arturo Talbo really needs a lyric tenor who can really hit all the high notes, yet have that dashing and handsome stage appearance. Not to mention, he has to hit a high F when he has to. But there has been no shortage of Arturos who managed to hit that high F in the Credeasi Misera. We have the likes of Gregory Kunda. We also have Albert da Costa, Chris Merritt, William Matteuzzi, Nicolai Gedda, Alfredo Kraus, and Luciano Pavarotti, just to name a few tenors. Oh, and even the legendary Giacomo Lauri Volpi. These guys have hit the high F in the Credeasi Misera and have become very well known for their interpretations of Arturo. Not only do you need a very lyrical tenor voice who can be able to sing sweetly and with a lot of really fine and really gorgeous notes with all of the coloratura being used, but in my opinion, he sort of needs to have a little bit of that spinto quality so that he can be like more heroic as well. Remember, he is not just a lover in this opera. He's also the main hero, aside from Elvira being the main heroine. So it's kind of something when you have someone who can sing like an Idreno from Semiramide, or a Percy from Anna Bolena, or a Roberto from Maria Stuarda, yet have all that fine and invigorating stage presences of a Cavaradossi, a Carlo from Masnadieri, or even an Hernani. There's been no shortage of tenors who have even transitioned from something like Arturo to even the more spinto roles. The likes of Gianni Raimondi and John Alexander come to mind, and even to some extent, Nicolai Gedda, who also sang Lohengrin in the 60s. What I thought of Javier Camarena as Arturo was that he was absolutely a pro in the bel canto repertoire. He really rocked it as Arturo. He has an excellent timbre, which is sweet yet strong, gorgeous and complete with all of that gorgeous coloratura tenor technique, which he is so well known for. However, I would have loved to hear him hit the high F in Credeasi Misera. And going off topic right here, to that extent, I would have loved to hear Diana Damrau singing the aria that was often cut, which is Assento o mio bell'angelo, which I was looking forward to, but I was kind of sad that it didn't happen. Going back to Senor Camarena, he did fabulously as Arturo, really embodying this character with dignity, integrity, strength, heroism, romanticism, and a sense of vivacity that I was able to glue my eyes on him every single time he was on stage. He was that invigorating and youthful as a hero of this opera, and he did very fabulously. Then we go to Elvira's uncle, Giorgio Valton, sung by Nicolas Teste. With this role, he really needs a true basso cantante who not only has to sing a lot of the low notes, but also has to have a fine and really gorgeous timbre to his voice. There has been no shortage of bassos who have attempted this wonderful basso role, like Nikolai Gyaurov, Ezio Flagello, Giorgio Surian, Samuel Ramey, and Ferruccio Furlanetto, just to name a few. And I thought that with Nicolas Teste, he was absolutely awesome in this role. He has a velvety, rich, and kind of cavernous basso cantante voice, which he uses very well to his advantage. And he really won me over as this sort of father figure to Elvira, even though he's actually her uncle. He did very fabulously with his aria Cinta di Fiori, which he sang with pathos and poignancy, and he was an absolute charmer on stage. He was regal, and he was absolutely charming in his own special way. And then we go to the third wheel of Arturo's and Elvira's romance in the form of Ricardo Fort, sung by Ludovic Tezier, who I also saw a few days ago singing Posa from Don Carlo live from the Wiener Staatsoper. Ricardo Fort really needs a dramatic baritone who can sing lyrically but also sing very dramatically as well. He shouldn't be someone who barks, nor someone who has a lot of rough edges to his voice. He needs to have a smooth, even voice that can manage to hit some high notes and hit some bottom notes as well. Any baritone who has sung the likes of Nabucco, Giorgio Germont, Monforte from Vespri Siciliani, Giacomo from Giovanna d'Arco, Francesco Foscari from I Due Foscari, Scarpia from Tosca, Michele from Il Tavaro, Jack Rance from La Fanciulla de Vest, Enrico from Lucia della Mermur, Telramund from Lohengrin, Kurvenal from Tristan und Isolde, and Amfortas and Klingsor from Parsifal. He has to combine lyrical singing with dramatic singing without being too barky. There's been no shortage of baritones who have attempted this role, and they have included the likes of Aldo Protti and Matteo Manugera, just to name a few, and even Cheryl Milnes. And I thought that with Ludovic Tezier, what more can I expect from this guy? He has a very handsome stage presence and an equally fine lyric dramatic baritone voice, which he can manipulate very, very well. And his stage presence was, as to be expected, very dashing, very handsome, and his duet with Nicola Teste's Giorgio with Suoni la Tromba was very well done, making me so immersed in the totality of this basso and baritone duet. I'm not too crazy for his acting, mostly because there are times that he doesn't really express a whole lot, but I have to really give him credit for everything he did musically. He managed to pull off this really fine baritone role very well, and his musicianship was very well done, as to be expected from a gentleman like Monsieur Ludovic Tezier. Then we go to the smaller roles. In the role of Giorgio's older brother, twin brother in general, Gualtiero Valton was the superb basso cantante Miklos Sebastian. Now, he does also need a basso cantante voice, or even at times a basso profondo voice. There's been no shortage of young bassos who even sang this role, or even basso profondos who also sang this role and managed to really make the best out of this thankless basso character. With Miklos Sebastian, I could really see a really bright future for this gentleman, especially in the bigger basso parts of Philip II, the Grand Inquisitor, Banco, Loredano, Fiesco, Ramfis, the King, Orovesso, Conte Rodolfo, Sarastro, Fasolt, König Heinrich, Hunding, Gurnemans, the Dutchman, and maybe even Daland. I see a very bright future for this brilliant basso cantante. His stage presence was absolutely sturdy, strong, and steely, and you bought every moment he was on stage, even though this part is extremely thankless for any basso cantante or basso profondo. And then we go to the tinier roles with Queen Enriqueta di Francia, sung by the superb Italian lyric mezzo Annalisa Stroppa, who has a very gorgeous lyric mezzo voice and has been very well known for her interpretations of a lot of the bel canto operas. And here she was in totally fine voice for a character that is extremely thankless. And then we go to the equally thankless part of Bruno Robertson, who only appears in the first act of the opera, sung superbly by the fine Spanish lyric tenor Antonio Lozano, who has a very fine and gorgeous voice and a very bright future ahead of him, maybe in even more leading roles. So overall, the singing was of the highest order. My biggest kudos really has to go to Diana Damrau, Javier Camarena, Nicolas Testé, and Ludovic Desier, who really did an awesome job really bringing these characters to life, especially Damrau in her interpretation of Elvira, in which she has been singing for about 5 years now. She has continued to show excellence, brilliance, and charisma, and this is no exception. And the conducting done by Evelino Pido was really fine. I didn't really understand why the audience gave him boos when he had his curtain calls. I was kind of scratching my head in that. I thought his tempi were fine and controlled all throughout, and he really did a fine job really leading the chorus and the orchestra very well. And the chorus and orchestra of the Teatro Real de Madrid were absolutely fine. Everyone pitched in together and really put in a very fine performance. So overall, what a great way to celebrate my 200th review in terms of reviewing opera, concerts, and classical music in general seen live. I have to give my hat off to everyone in the cast, in the production, and even the conductor, chorus, and the orchestra. On a more serious note, I would also like to dedicate this review to all the people we've lost this year, and considering all the circumstances that have happened as of this year, with all of the attacks and all of the crap going on in this world, I really hope that this 200th music review will be my contribution to not only the arts, but also to a better world through music and through expressing. And words cannot really describe how detrimental the situations are, considering everything that has happened this year. But if we could really stand strong together and really pray for a better tomorrow and really take action for a better world, then I'm sure this would absolutely be possible. Well, that's all for now. Be sure to tune in for another review. So until then, good night, everybody, and God bless you all. And thank you all for tuning in to this 200th music review. Take care, everybody.